Welcome to the Northern Talent Cup, the stepping stone to stardom for riders from Central and Northern European nations. The 2023 season is finally underway after a topsy-turvy afternoon yesterday at the TT Circuit Assen. Rain during a sighting lap saw two riders crash out and the start delayed for several minutes until conditions were stable enough to go racing. But when we did, it was a memorable one for the Pomara family back in Switzerland as 15-year-old Levin danced along a wet Assen track to an outstanding first win in the NTC ahead of home favourite Jurien van Kruchten and Levin's elder brother and pole sitter Lennox Pomara. They are the top three in the championship as we go into Sunday's race 2, but we expect some lessons to have been learned from their many pursuers. The stars of tomorrow are ready for another go. It's time for the Northern Talent Cup. A warm welcome from Assen and welcome to this final race of the Pirelli Dutch Round. We've had 4 races already on Sunday across 3 classes, a further 6 on Saturday, and on both days a closer has been the Northern Talent Cup. Yesterday, history was made as Levin Pomara, a rider who in the 2022 season amassed just 3 points over the full year, defied expectations to win the first race of the season in comfortable fashion, leading every lap despite starting from the middle of the 4th row. Anthony Nelson and Steve English live from Assen. And Steve, we should hopefully have a different race today if conditions remain as they are right now. It has been dry all day. It still is dry right now out on track.
Yeah, looking at the highlights video from yesterday, it's hard to believe we're at the same track because the conditions really did change very quickly for the Talent Cup riders. We saw that basically the rain started to come in just as the sighting lap started, and then within 5 minutes the track was completely flooded and everyone was having to deal with full wet conditions. We had 3 sighting laps for the riders to understand the conditions, and no one understood it better than Levin Pomara.
I must admit, about an hour ago, I was walking around the paddock and started feeling drops of rain in the air and thought, oh no, not again. But it does seem at the moment the conditions have remained a bit stable, so we should be able to get our first dry race of the season. The action that we had on Friday for all of these riders in the 3 free practice sessions was dry, so it'll be good to see them put that experience to test here. Yeah,
definitely, and you want to be able to get a good indication of what these riders can do in the dry conditions. You want to know just how the talent level really stacks up this year in the Northern Talent Cup. We've obviously seen some riders already come from this Talent Cup and go to the world scene. Even just an hour ago, we were able to see that Loris Veneman was able to take the start once again in the 300 World Championship. So that's something that gives these riders something to aim for.
And being quite competitive, so it must be said. So we start looking at our grid here for this race 2 of the Northern Talent Cup. On pole position is Lennox Pomara, the elder brother of yesterday's race winner. Lennox Pomara has made a big step forward in the early stage of this season. He was fastest in the Oschersleben test a few weeks back. He's on pole today, the first time that he is on pole in the Northern Talent Cup. He got a podium in yesterday's race 2. We'll expect to go at least 2 better, well, 2 or 1 better in today's race.
Yeah, I think he's going to be aiming for that race victory. Lennox has been very strong in the dry conditions, and even in the rain yesterday, even though he was a little bit more careful than his brother, he was able to come away with that podium finish.
Rocco Sessa, middle of the front row for him. It was a bit of a more difficult race for him yesterday. He finished 6th eventually, which did net him some interesting championship points, but he'll expect to go better considering the pace that he's shown at Assen.
Yeah, Rocco all the way through this weekend has been one of the faster riders. Didn't adapt quite as quickly as some of the other riders yesterday. Ended up with a little bit of a lonely race really in that 6th position.
It was also a lonely race for our rider in 3rd on the grid, Julius Frelsen. Very difficult race for him. He ended up nearly 90 seconds down on our race winner, down in 10th position. Of course, big gaps emerging between the riders in that race.
Yeah, we did end up with very large gaps all the way through the field in yesterday's race. Almost a full lap from the race winner to the last finisher, but conditions really were treacherous.
Second row of the grid, we see Filip Novotny in 4th position. He finished 9th in yesterday's race. Another riders who will be expecting to make a big step forward today.
Yeah, Novotny was actually in a decent scrap for most of the race and then ended up a little bit lonely by the end of it. But good effort by the Czech rider in the difficult conditions yesterday, just to be in that group in about 7th or 8th position for most of the race.
5th position is one of our theoretical favourites if we do have a dry race. Jurien van Kruchten, he was impressive yesterday in 2nd position, keeping up with our race leader, for our race winner for a lot of laps. Just didn't quite have enough to really turn the pace up in the final laps.
Yeah, and I think for Jurien, though, coming away with 20 points from the opening race of the season at least gives him a good foundation. Now you're into the dry race here, and it should be where the pack stays together. And for these 14 laps, we should have a little bit more of a traditional Talent Cup battle.
The second row of the grid will be completed by this man, Maxime Schmid. He was involved in a very active battle, one of the few that we did have in yesterday's wet race for 7th position with Antoine Nativi and Philip Novotny. He'll be expecting to improve upon that today.
Yeah, certainly. I think that the goal for Schmidt will be to try and come away with a top 5 finish in this one. And if he's able to do that, it really is a decent effort from him.
Speaking of active battles, our leader of the 3rd row of the grid, Martin Vince, he was involved in basically a race-long battle with Kilian Holzer, who will be starting just behind him on the 4th row of the grid. Vince did emerge victorious in the end, keeping on to 4th position and some good championship points.
Yeah, and I think that that's the key in these early races of the year. Avoid mistakes and give yourself the chance of being able to score some points.
One of the riders who we expected to be extraordinarily competitive this season and who struggled yesterday in the wet was this man, Matteo Massili, on the middle of the 3rd row of the grid. He finished 1 minute and 51 seconds, so nearly a full lap down on our race leader, down in 15th position, picked up 1 championship point, but will definitely be hoping to do better today.
Yeah, and I think that for a lot of these riders, obviously in the dry conditions, they'll expect to be much more competitive. For Massili, he was the best part of a lap down by the end of the race, but that's not going to be the case in the dry conditions.
Completing that 3rd row of the grid is Antoine Nativi, our best rookie from yesterday and our top rookie on the grid. He's proven to be very competitive all around. He proved to be quite resilient as well, the way he held off attacks from Schmidt or Novotny. More experienced riders in this Northern Talent Cup class. Nativi did hold on to 7th position, so it'd be interesting to see what you can do in the dry today. 10th position on the grid, starting row 4, is Kilian Holzer. We mentioned that battle with Martin Vince earlier on. It was a pretty exceptional race from Holzer, although given the pace that we'd seen from him in the wet in the past, he might have even expected a bit more.
I thought what was most impressive was that they were really closing in quickly on Lennox Pomara at the end of the race, and if there had been another couple of laps, you certainly would have had a real scrap for the podium finish.
Well, this man might be hoping for a few drops of rain, given the pace that we saw from him yesterday. Levin Pomara, 15 years old, taking his first win in the Northern Talent Cup class. In dry conditions, he's only scored 3 points, but has made a step forward in testing and could prove to be competitive today, given the confidence he would have got from yesterday.
Yeah, and this is the real test now in the dry conditions. Can he make that big step and give himself a chance of another good finish?
This is Keanu Shu completing the 4th row of the grid. One of our rookies this year in the Northern Talent Cup. Shu did endure a technical issue, what seemed to be a technical issue, halfway through the race. We'll be hoping to get his first points on board today.
Yeah, I think for Shao, it's all about trying to just gain that experience like it is for so many riders in these Talent Cups. It is a case of just trying to learn every time you're out there.
The 5th row of the grid will be Zelenak, Gunderman and Deckers, with Ramersdorfer, Vanemacher, Krabacher and Pontillo completing this 19-rider strong field of the Northern Talent Cup for race 2. We're going to get underway right now. A late downpour for Saturday's race 1 left the Northern Talent Cup riders unable to put into practice what they'd learned in 3 fully dry sessions at the TT Circuit Assen, opening the door to unpredictability. For race 2, it should be a slightly different tale. The front runners from testing and Friday's action will feel confident ahead of 14 laps around this 4.5-kilometre TT Circuit Assen. But even then, however, none of the 19 riders on today's grid have won a race in the dry in the Northern Talent Cup. Whoever emerges victorious could set the tone for the rest of the season. Anthony Nelson and Steve English live trackside from Assen. And Steve, it looks as if the weather is holding up. I probably shouldn't speak before the warm-up lap, but we could get a very exciting race here today.
Well, we should get a very exciting race here in the Northern Talent Cup. Conditions stable right now, which means that all of these riders know what to expect. It also means that we should have everyone sticking a lot closer together. In yesterday's race, it really was very unusual for the Talent Cups. We didn't really see too many battles out there, so it was a tough race for a lot of the riders. There wasn't much grip out there. They were all trying to find their feet, and some of them found them a little bit faster.
A quick word on the riders who haven't been able to join us in these races here at Assen. Delano Greven and David Sidorov have missed the entire round due to injuries they sustained at the Oschersleben test a few weeks back. And William Coyle as well, who suffered a broken left ankle, suspected broken left ankle in free practice 1. So we hope to see them back. Of course, send our best wishes to all three riders who will complete what will be a 22 strong field in the upcoming races.
Yeah, and certainly for the Talent Cup, it's all about trying to give yourself the opportunity, be on the shop window, and then move on to the next stage of your career. And a lot of the times in the Talent Cups, it's not always about winning the Talent Cup, it's about being able to show your ability in different times. And that's where it was good for Levin Pomara yesterday to be able to claim that race victory, just because it gives you that highlight of what he's been able to achieve. And certainly for Levin on the number 53 machine, he's a rider to keep an eye on in this race, just to see how he fares compared to yesterday.
And it shows that spark of talent. That's something that a lot of teams need to see to be able to trust rider in these young ages, because it can be difficult sometimes in these sort of classes to set yourselves apart. Levin Pomara did do that yesterday.
Yeah, I think for Levin we saw that all the way through. It was very impressive to be able to just have the confidence in the conditions to push hard and just trust that everything was going to be okay. And certainly it's a lot easier to do that when you're qualifying down on the the fourth row of the grid, and you've got that chance to come through. But once he hit the front, he was willing to push on.
So out of our 3 previous editions of the Northern Talent Cup, all 3 winners at the end of the season did win one of the opening 2 races. Levin Pomara did that yesterday. The question now is who can do it in race 2. The riders arrive to the grid. We focus on our pole sitter, Levin's brother Lennox. Will it be a fantastic day for the Pomara family, or can the home hero Jurien van Kruchten or someone else spoil the party? The green flag is out at the back. The lights are on. Race 2 of the Northern Talent Cup is underway, and it's been a good start from our pole sitter, but an even better start from Jurien van Kruchten on the number 36 bike. He's going through the middle, but it seems like it actually might be Rocco Sesler on the number 7 bike who leads us through turn 1.
Super start from Sesler on the number 7 machine from the middle of the front row of the grid. He's able to get that whole shot, but Lennox Pomara in a position to attack maybe. But this is a good clean start from the front runners, and now it's up to them to make sure you're able to stick together in that pack. Van Kruchten looks like he's been pickpocketed there through turn 3, trying to defend now into turn 5.
He does defend, remains in 3rd position, but we're also seeing good ground made by Matteo Massoli on the number 46 bike. He was 8th on the grid, already up to 5th position, and trying to attack Filip Novotny.
A little bit of a bobble there from the number 12, that's Hungarian Vincenz, and he's been able to lose a little bit of momentum, lost a spot in the run down towards the end of the back straight.
And Pomara moves down the inside back into 1st position. Our top 2 riders have opened a little bit of a gap over Jurien van Kruchten as Sessa tries to look down the inside, but quite can't do it as they go through turn 8.
Yesterday's race winner, Levin Pomara, still down there in 12th spot, just at the back of that leading group, but not able to make much progress here in the dry conditions on the opening lap.
A lot of work for him to do. A good start further down the field in 9th from Zelenak. He missed yesterday's race after crashing on the sighting lap. He started in 13th. He's up into the top 10 already. And Ramostov, the other rider who missed the races yesterday, up to 16th position already. But we focus on this battle for the lead. It is Lennox Pomara and Rocco Sesler who's going to try and move around the outside. Can he make it stick? He does. He moves into 1st position as we end the approach to our final lap, our 1st lap. But Jurien van Kruchten is making swift progress here. He's caught up with the front 2 and moves into 2nd position.
And through who's coming. Frelson as well on the 42. He's in a position to attack. Obviously, the slipstream always important in the Talent Cups in the dry, and what we're seeing in this race is riders able to use that to make sure they're able to stay in that lead group.
You can see how eager all these riders were to race after yesterday, and Jurjen van Kroogt in the front of the home crowd, most of them all. He moves into the lead for the very first time in this Northern Talent Cup, and will try to hold on as we go around turn 3, turn 4, the right-handers before the swift left switch back into turn 5 and that back straight.
Yeah, we haven't seen any Dutch success this weekend across all the classes, so all the pressure is on Van Kroogt to be able to give the home crowd something to cheer for.
No spoilers, but it has been a difficult day for the Dutch crowds here. But Jurjen van Kroogt could solve that and offer a silver lining right at the end of the day. We could focus on Philip Novotny on that battle for 5th position. He's in 6th, but we'll try to move past Vince behind. We've got a leading quartet at the moment as Lennox Pomara slides into the lead ahead of Rocco Sessler, and Van Kroogt has moved back to 3rd position.
Yeah, leading quartet just breaking away slightly from the number 12, but with the slipstream from turn 11 onwards, that might bring them back together. But certainly we've got a leading group of 12 that have broken away from Gutterman, and he's not going to be able to catch back up in 13th position.
It is so difficult sometimes to get past riders and really open a gap in these sort of classes, and especially when they're all fighting amongst themselves, it makes it even more difficult.
Levin Pomara, race winner yesterday, but Levin was about a second and a half slower than his brother and teammate Lennox Pomara in the qualifying session, and that's translating into the dry race right now.
He's trying to hold on to that big leading group, but isn't quite able to at the moment. We'll see if he can catch up as the race progresses. For now, we've got this battle for 1st position, and it is Lennox Pomara who remains in 1st position as we go once again into the Gert Timmers chicane.
Yeah, and you can see the field just making their way through here. Obviously a 14-lap race for these NTC riders. It's a long race. It'll take the best whack of a half an hour for them, so it's about surviving the early stages and then getting used to the conditions, putting yourself in a position at the end of the race to be able to attack.
Fastest lap of the race has been so far for Killian Holster, down in 8th position, which shows how fast all of these riders and how evenly matched they all are in this big leading group. He was around about 0.8 of a second faster than our race leader Lennox Pomara, and over a second faster than the riders in 2nd and 3rd. So it seems like this is grouping up once again. None of the riders at the front really able to gain any particularly big advantage.
Yeah, you can see Holzer there on the number 57, just on the white bike. A little bit of a gap behind him is Anakin Zelenak, and good to see Anakin out there as well after a very tough day yesterday. He had a crash on the siding lap to the grid and was forced to miss the opening race of the year, so good to see him in action.
Sessler on the number 7 moves into the lead with Pomara quick behind. It does seem at the moment that these two riders have a little bit more pace. This is the 2nd lap in a row where in that middle sector they've been able to open a little bit of a gap to the riders behind them, although it does seem to close up as we come around now turns 9 and 10.
Yeah, and you can see here for the 36 of Van Kroogt, he's under attack from Frelson, the Danish rider, and just able to hold him off right now. But like you said, Ant, there is a little bit of a gap starting to develop. But once you come through turn 11, this is all going to just close right up. And Holzer at the back of the group will certainly make it an 8-rider group at the front.
It could be interesting for Sessler to not try and attack Pomara at this moment in time, although, as I said that, it might be a bit too late as Jurjen van Kroogt moves alongside the 3 abreast. It's only lap 3 in this race, but they're already fighting to fit with the final lap, and Van Kroogt moves into the lead, although he did step outside the track there, so a bit of a difficult one for these riders.
Yeah, and through the Ramshoek, it's very easy to run in a bit too hot. We see the best riders in the world all running onto that green paint and onto the pit entrance, so for Van Kroogt, something that will give him a little bit of a mark from the race stewards, but nothing really to worry about too much.
Nothing to worry out until we get to the final lap, so better to get these, if you need to get outside of the track, better to get it done before that, because in the final laps it does mean an automatic penalty, position penalty for any riders who do step onto the green paint. It's Sessler now who's moved back into the lead with Pomara and Frelson behind them. These 4 riders are changing position every single lap, basically. The riders we haven't quite been able to make any progress on them. Vincent, we saw right now trying to attack Jurjen van Kroogt and going around turn 5, but there is that leading for quartet which has remained quite stable.
Yeah, Frelson on the number 42 machine, he hasn't really been able to make much of an impression on the race leaders up to now, but he's now in a position to try and attack them. Took him a little bit of time to come through on Van Kroogt. Van Kroogt was able to defend pretty well up to that point, but it's so difficult to defend in a race like these Northern Talent Cups. Everyone out there on identical KTM machinery, so it is a case of if you can use the slipstream, you're going to get chances.
It's an 8-rider group here. A quick look at the second group that we had behind. Massily seemed to be in the lead from that, but there is a big gap opening up behind them. So Massily in the dry conditions, not being able to show the pace that he had shown previously in testing, and what we expected from him, being one of the most competitive riders remaining from last season.
Yeah, and certainly for Levin Pomara as well, a race winner yesterday outside the top 10, and just gaining that experience in the dry conditions. It was good to see him take his chance yesterday, but he's not going to be involved in the battle for the race win today.
Sessler remains in the lead, and his best result in this Northern Talent Cup, let's remember, last year was a 6th position. So this is the very first time that we see him in these sort of battles. Julius Frelson as well. He only competed in half of the season last year, had the best result in the final race of 10th position, but never been as competitive as we've seen him today.
Yeah, he's under attack though from Van Kruten on the run into turn 1, but that inside line means he's able to outbrake his rival. Actually carries good speed through turn 1. That's going to set something up to get down the inside of Lennox as well now.
He can't quite make it, remains in 3rd position with Sessler and Pomara in front, and they're defending quite admirably. It's been over a lap now where we've seen those two riders at the front. The riders behind are trying to force their way through, but it isn't quite happening at the minute.
I think we've pretty much had Sessler and Pomara up in those top 2 positions in one way or the other all the way through this race. They've done a good job to be able to keep themselves there. You can see now Frelson on the 42. He's got the slipstream. He's going to come through, but is Lennox going to be able to answer back?
He got beautiful drive out there, but he just gets boxed in a little bit. We'll see if he can dive up in the inside of Pomara as they come into the breaking points of 6, 7 and 8. And actually it's Van Kruten, while we were looking at our race leader, who's moved into 2nd position there. The Dutchman moving from 4th into 2nd as we focus now on that second group led by Massily.
Yeah, Massily doing a good job on the 46, but look at the 42. Once again, Frelson trying to just get down the insider riders around there. Van Kruten's managed to come through to take the lead, and now you can see the 57 as well of Holzer. Seeing all the overtaking moves being made, he wants a piece of it as well.
I think they may be keeping their powder dry because there has been too many laps where we've seen them remain in those sort of similar positions. Not too many changes at the back. Vince has been in 5th position for what seemed like an eternity, while all of these front 4 riders are changing every lap. Although, as I say that, Vince has tried to have a stab for 4th. He does move up into 4th position.
Are you brave enough, and to imply that there's tactics in a Talent Cup race?
Well, there should be.
There should be. A lot of the time it's just reacting to what's around you in a big group like this. The key is always to make sure you're up in those top 3 positions. That gives you the chance to be able to attack for the race lead.
To be fair, if you are going to plan tactics, you better be a quick thinker, because in a split second you can change from the front of the group to the back of the group. One small mistake and it's not a couple of points lost, it can be just about all of them. Here we have an 8-strong rider group, and it is Lennox Pomara back into 1st position ahead of Sessler. So all that movement happening during the lap, but it is these same 2 riders who it seems have the consistency down and the patience really to move themselves back into those sort of positions.
Yeah, and certainly it's a case of just trying to get yourself comfortable for where your bike and where your style is working well, because all these riders do have very different styles on the bike. And you'll see Rocco Sessler there out in front on the number 7 machine, just leaning on Frelson on the run in towards the fast right-left sequence there at 6 and 7.
The 2 teammates of the MCA Racing now trading positions. It's a 1-2 for them with Pomara in 3rd position. We'll see how that changes as we go into turn 9, turn 10.
Van Kruten coming down the inside there, able to make that move on the Hungarian, not quite able to make it stick. So good effort there from the number 12 to be able to hold on to that position.
And Vincent now starting to show his pace, the only Hungarian rider on the grid. We've got a long tradition of Hungarian riders in the Northern Talent Cup, given the short history. Championed in 2020, champion in 2022. There's only one left. That gives you some pressure, but shows the talent level of the riders coming through. Vincent is showing that right now. He's right on the back of Frelson for 3rd position. It's still Sessler and Pomara in 1st and 2nd. We see Holzer now trying to move up into a provisional podium position. He makes it into 4th. Will be on the back of Vincent, and this is starting to heat up now. Those riders who are at the back of the group are now starting to make their attempts to get to the front.
Yeah, and you can see Frelson there on the 42 just trying to get himself into a position to come through once again. But look at Van Kruten. He's just trying to lean on the riders around there. He's up in 6th position in front of a home crowd. He's clearly looking for a lot more.
A quick word for those riders in the second group. Masili, Pomara, Zelenak and Nativi were all faster than the riders in that leading group. They took around half a second, nearly a second in some cases, over the riders here. It seems that that 8-strong group will turn into a 12-strong group sooner rather than later. That gap is getting cut down.
Yeah, they took 1.2 out of the last rider in the group, Schmidt, as well. So they're trying to close right up the gap now, down by another half second on this lap. Whenever you start scrapping with each other, you do cost yourself a lot of lap time.
And in that group is yesterday's race winner, Levin Pomara, down in 10th position right now, but he'll fancy his chances at scoring more points as this race progresses. Still 8 laps to go in this second race of the Northern Talent Cup at the TT Circuit Assen.
It does sound like they're closing down the gap whenever they're taking back half second, but look at the gap to Massily there with the red and yellow number 46. It's still a pretty sizable margin to make up.
It is a sizable margin, but it is a long race ahead as Holzer now tries to move into second position. He'll have to remain content with third, but as you can see on the graphic on your screen, good progress from the number 57. We haven't seen him be this competitive in fully dry conditions. Of course, Holzer, a race winner last year. 2 of the race winners are left on this 2023 Northern Talent Cup entry list, but Holzer's was in a 5-lap race, the final lap of the season last year, finest race of the season last year at the Red Bull Ring. So in the sort of full-length race, fully dry conditions, Holzer never been this competitive.
8 riders in that lead group. It looked almost like there were 8 abreast coming through turns 12, 13, 14. But for these riders, it is about trying to make sure you're able to keep yourself to the front of this group. Let's see what the gap is to the next group. It's down to 1.4 seconds. Another half second taken out of them by Massily.
Love to see the different lines at the back of your screen, particularly with Massily and Levin Pomara, both of them basically on different sides of the straight. Massily trying to keep Pomara from getting the slipstream and join the group himself, but it seems like both riders are cutting back on the riders ahead of them. Again, they were faster and they just set their best personal times of this race. It does seem that Nativi, the rookie, and Zelenak, the top 2 rookies in this race, are struggling a little bit more at this time.
Yeah, and you can see at the front of the field, though, Frelson leading the way from Rocco Sessler, and then Lennox Pomara. They've been the 3 riders that have probably consistently been able to keep themselves in those leading positions. You can see the likes of the 36 of Van Kruten. He's been a little bit more of a yo-yo in that leading group.
It is Frelson, Sessler, Lennox Pomara. Well, Lennox Pomara's just moved into first position now, so again, yo-yo in between these 3.
Yeah, Massily is there now, though, and he's brought with him it looked like Levin Pomara as well on the 53 machine. So we now have a 10-rider group at the front of the field. We're into the second half here of the second race of the season.
They've cut a full second, not in the last lap, in the last 2 sectors, and they are firmly part of that group right now. So we've got a 10-strong rider group, and let's see if the likes of Nativi and Zelenak, who we thought had been left behind, can catch up to them if the rhythm does slow down in this group.
Yeah, they haven't had the same speed, though, as the likes of Massily, that's been able to pull himself and also Levin Pomara up to this group. So they look like they're going to be in a position to start attacking. Keep an eye on the 46, the red and yellow bike.
Oh, and we see Frelson.
That's Frelson.
Frelson going off the track, and he'll... Oh, and I'm not sure if he fell in the end, but Frelson losing track of this group right now. He's going to rejoin, but that's the end of his options for the win today.
Yeah, and that's it, done for him. And such a fine performance by him all the way through. But you can see there a little bit of a splinter now in the group as a result of that mistake from the 42.
That's a right shame for Frelson, because he had started to open a very small gap. He'd set his best personal time of the race the lap before. We're going to see that incident for Frelson there.
Yeah, so easy to go in a little bit too deep. You can see there just locking up the rear as he comes through there, just trying to get that bike stopped any way he can. Just was in a little bit too hot and makes the mistake. It's going to cost him a chance of a race win.
Shame for Frelson. He's now around about 5.5 seconds down on that group of 11 riders. Actually, Zelenak has been somewhat left behind by the riders, so it'll be a bit more for Frelson, so difficult to be able to make up that sort of advantage in the following laps that we've got left.
Vince's done a good job there on the number 12 machine to get himself up into second as well. He's kind of just pickpocketed a few riders here and there to get himself up into that position. Lennox Pomara has been the most impressive rider all the way through this race. He's consistently been able to stay at the front. Now we move into the all-important final third of this race just coming up. So all of these riders know that once you're past that 2/3 race distance, this is where you need to make sure that you're able to get yourself to the front, just in case there's a red flag in the race.
Oh, that's a big crash here at the back. Quite a few riders going down.
That's Hulsen, and it looks like the 46 is down as well, and it looks like Van Kruten too.
Oh.
So 3 of our leading riders all going down massively after doing all the hard work to catch up to that group. Is now down and out.
Confirmation it is Van Krugten, Massily and Holzer who crashed out there, and that leaves us with a very split group and a lot of riders moving further up the field. That has affected a few riders in that group actually. The rider who has moved up quite a bit is Frelsen, who's now back into the top 10, but these 3 riders, all of them out of the race.
Yeah, it looks like all of them are able to walk away from that one. Turn 11 is the corner that leads on to the back straight, so probably the most important corner in the track in a lot of ways, and in this race we're going to look at it as being the most important corner because it's splintered that lead group.
Holzer has actually been able to rejoin the grid, but the other 2 riders are out, and such a shame for Jurien Van Krugten, who had proven to be so competitive in the dry. Of course, he has that podium from yesterday, so it's not a big blow to his championship chances, but again, just one of those things that happens.
Holzer looks like he's come back into the pits there as well, so for him that's probably going to be the end of his day.
And now that has moved the rookie Nativi up into 6th position. He's just set his personal best lap time of the day. But we have a firm top 3 at the moment. Lennox Pomara, Rocco Sesler and Martin Vince. Those are the 3 riders that now have over 2 seconds of an advantage over the battle for 4th.
Now they're just coming through to the section where had that crash the last time around. So you can see Lennox Pomara on the 48 out in front from Rocco Sesler. And this is where we had the crash last time around the next corner. So we'll see if there's any gravel that's been thrown up or anything from that crash. Looks like it's pretty clean out there, so hopefully for these riders it's not going to affect anything for the final 4.5 laps.
And it didn't seem like any yellow flags either, so it seems like the bikes are being cleaned up quite quickly and we'll be able to continue racing in normal conditions here. So we have a firm top 3 candidates for our race win today. Lennox Pomara, Rocco Sesler and Martin Vince. Maximus Schmid on the number 95 bike is now 2.6 seconds behind. Philip Novotny and Antoine Nativi switching positions for 5th. So we're going to get a different race than what we expected a few laps ago.
Yeah, Sesler through into the race lead as well. Big look over the shoulder there for Lennox Pomara. He wants to see who's in this group. He now knows that it's a group of 3 and it's up to you to make sure which step of the podium you're going to be on.
Well, he's not going to have to look very far. He's got 1 rider in front, 1 rider behind. These 3 riders now battling to get their first dry win in the Northern Talent Cup. For Sesler and Vince, their full win, full stop.
Yeah, and for these riders as well, though, now that they're not battling in a big group of 10 riders, they're setting their personal best laps.
And they've faster, over a second faster than the riders behind them, so they're truly proving their pace now with 4 laps to go. Oh, and we've got another crash behind.
That's the 95, that's Schmidt.
Oh, that's Schmidt. He was leading that second group in 4th position. That's promoted Novotny into 4th. And Levin Pomara, race winning yesterday, up to 5th position.
I wonder, is that down at the chicane? It does look like a big gravel trap, so maybe at the end of the lap. Turn 1 potentially, actually.
It seems like it's turn 1 on our timing screens. We do have yellow flags out at turn 1. Just confirmation right now that was there. We imagine that was an isolated incident for the number 95. Hopefully we can get a replay in the following laps. But that's left 2 3-rider groups, one for the battle for 1st, the other for the battle for 4th, the battle for 7th with Frelsen, who we saw run out of the Gertima chicane a couple of laps ago. He's up to 7th position already, and he is cutting some time for that from that group in front of him. It might be a little bit too late for him, but we'll see how that progresses for the Danish rider.
Yeah, and that retirement's also going to mean if you finish this race, you're going to score some points in the NTC this weekend.
And actually, Frelsen, it will be his best result in the class, even with that runoff. So progress being made, but a lot more to consider for future rounds, given the pace that we had seen him display in the rest of the race.
Rocco having a look there on the number 7 machine. Still 3 laps to go when they come across the stripe, so still plenty of time left for the number 7 to hit the front. But Lennox Pomara on the 48 consistently finding a way to get to the front of that group today.
Well, you can see they've realised now that they are in an isolated group, because that pace has slightly slowed down from the previous lap. All these riders still riding faster than the riders behind them. Actually, the fastest rider on track is Frelsen right now, 51.5, over a second and a half faster than the riders in front of him. It might be a little bit too late for him, but we'll keep an eye on, because those riders in that second group, Nativi, Novotny and Levin Pomara, are changing positions quite a lot. So that may aid Frelsen back into the fight.
Yeah, and you can see here the number 7 of Sessler leading on to the Venschlang straight, and for Lennox Pomara once again able to keep himself in these leading positions. This is what was expected of him coming into this season. He's living up to those expectations, and he's trying to make it a pretty good weekend, you'd have to say, for the Pomaras.
It has been an extraordinary weekend for the Pomaras, but it could get even better if Lennox Pomara can win this race 2 of the Northern Talent Cup. He's down in 3rd, so it seems like Vince has moved ahead of him on this lap, and Vince trying to push ahead.
Yeah, and for Vincent doing exactly what he needs to do. And the good thing of it is, as things stand right now, all of the top riders in the NTC are all going to be very closely matched in their championship standing. So after all of the craziness of yesterday and the wet weather race in race 1, it's going to mean that everyone's going to be pretty much holding station in where they expect it to be, heading to Sachsenring in round 2 in a few weeks' time.
And as it stands, these 3 would be our top 3 in the World Championship. Rocco Sessler holding on to 1st position here. All these riders will be calculating the sort of moves that they can make in the final lap. When they cross the finish line, there will just be 2 of the 14 laps left in race 2 of the Northern Talent Cup. It's Sessler, Vincent, Lennox Pomara, number 48 in 3rd position. Vincent's going to try and get the slipstream down into the inside of Rocco Sessler. Can't quite make it into turn 1.
2 laps to go though, so plenty of time to make those moves. That's the TV on the 27 that's out in front of the second group in 4th position. Good effort from him as well. Obviously able to take advantage of some of those crashes in front of him, but he's been able to be pretty solidly on the pace all the way through the dry weather here this weekend.
Doing an excellent job as the best rookie in this race. Antoine Nativi, you have to go down to 8th position to Zelenak to find the next one. Doing a very good job, but just dropping off the pace. We saw him in that group with Massili, with Levin Pomara earlier in the race, but doesn't quite seem to have the bike under him at the minute to be able to keep up with them. A good job from the rookies, and particularly Nativi in 4th position. As we return now to this fight for 1st, it's still Sessler, Vincent, Lennox Pomara. They're keeping it powder dry in this penultimate lap. Vincent has a look down the inside around turn 8, but it's not. The door has been shut by Sessler. This group of 3 riders, it's now 5 seconds, the gap that they have over the riders preceding them. They've seen all the action happen in this race, so they want to keep it safe now until the final lap.
Yeah, they also know that there's no real point trying to get to the front of this group until you're into this point next time around. So you've still got another lap to go until you really come down to the thick end of this race. Big look over the shoulder once again from Lennox Pomara. He wants to see what 5 seconds looks like behind them, just so he's able to confirm that it's all about these 3 riders for the race victory. And it is about these 3 riders, but it's about these 3 corners really next time around. It's the run through the Ramshoek, down in towards the Gert Timmer curve, and then the chicane at the end of the lap.
Well, that's a question that always pops up when you get to this chicane, is do you want to leave on the run up to it? Because riders can...
No, you don't. You want to make sure you're in a position to attack, because what we see time and time again, that last corner is designed to draw you into an attack.
But it's also designed for mistakes and riders stepping onto the green. Watch out in this final lap of race 2 of the Northern Talent Cup. At the moment, it is Sessler who is in the lead. His best result was 6th at the Oschersleben last year. So whatever his result is in this final lap, it will be his personal best. But you'll be hoping to make that a first win in the Northern Talent Cup.
Lennox Pomara has been 1st or 2nd for most of this race. He's at the back of this group on the 48 machine, and he needs to come through, because for him, if he can come through, he's going to take the championship lead after the opening round of the year.
They're keeping busy amongst themselves along the back straight. It does seem that Sessler had a bit of an advantage. That has been eaten up, though. Martin Vincent right on the back of him again. As we go through the second sector, he does have a look around the inside turn 8, but isn't going to try it there. It's going to be the Gert Timmer chicane, isn't it?
It's going to come down to the chicane at the end of the lap, but that means that turn 11 is the important part of the track, because it's the change of direction through turns 13, 14, 15. That's where you can make a move. Look at Lennox just building there in that number 48 machine.
He'll have to act soon, because there's 2 riders that he has to overtake in these final stages. Sessler is in the lead, but Martin Vincent is behind, and he'll be fancying his own chances. Here goes Lennox Pomara trying to around the outside, around turn 12. The riders are nearly 3 abreast as we come across turn 13. It is going to be a grandstand finish at the Gert Timmers chicane as we enter the final sector. Lennox Pomara moves into the lead, the number 48. Could it be a magic weekend for the Pomara family? It seems like it might be. He holds into first position as we go through turn 16. Rocco Sessler firmly on his back, but it seems like it will be a win for Lennox Pomara. His second win in the Northern Talent Cup, his first of this 2023 season. Antoine Nativi wins the battle for fourth, the rookie doing an excellent job. So it's Lennox Pomara in first, Rocco Sessler second, Martin Vince finally third position for the Hungarian rider, Antoine Nativi in fourth position, Levin Pomara, excellent job from him to move up to fifth position at the end. We are getting some changes on our timing standards, so we'll try to confirm the result as soon as possible as we can. But as it goes for this man, Lennox Pomara, that was clean as you like it. An excellent job from him to win, as his brother did yesterday.
Yeah, our timing screen's gone wrong. You can see that in the timing tower on the side of the screen as well. Anakin Zelenek didn't come through. Now, maybe Anakin's done something there to take control of the timing screens, but it did certainly look to us like it was Lennox Pomara that came through, and he's going to be able to claim the championship lead after the opening races of the Northern Talent Cup season. Very impressive stuff from Lennox as well. He took that defensive line on the run into the chicane at the end of the lap and rode it to perfection. So very good effort from Lennox.
Well, it's what we've been talking about all weekend, especially since yesterday. We thought the Lennox Pomara would be one of the favourites for yesterday, even the wet conditions. He came away with a podium from that, but you can imagine he was hoping for more, and seeing his brother be so competitive, he would definitely be hoping to do what he's done today, to get that confidence from a dry race win. And he will be our championship leader going into the next round. In fact, we have a Pomara, I think we have a Pomara 1-2 at the top of the standing, so excellent job from them.
Yeah, and I think certainly for Lennox, a really good start to the season, and you might well have it where Rocco Sessler might have something to say about the championship standings as well, but there's a little bit of uncertainty right now. We're still waiting for our timing screens to update, but as it is, no doubt about our podium finishers, and for the number 12, Vince, a very good start to his Northern Talent Cup season.
He didn't seem quite content with that, though, as we just focused on him a few moments ago. He must have hoped he'd be able to be in that battle for first position. We saw him in the first lap of the first sector of the final lap. He was right on the back of Sessler, and he would have been hoping to make that big move into the Gert Timmers chicane. But as we were talking before then, when you've got a rider behind, you've got a rider in front, you have to focus on both of them. If one of the makes a move, if the rider behind makes a move, that just does away with your entire strategy.
Yeah, fourth and a third, though, over the course of the opening 2 races of the year. That's a good opening round.
It's been a good opening round from our race leader and Martin Vince. Also, it must be said for Rocco Sessler, second in this position. His best result was 6th, so the first podium in the Northern Talent Cup for him. All these riders showing what they can do in a dry race, which is what we wanted, to get a fully dry race to differentiate itself from yesterday, and somewhat, as we said, a preview of what's to come perhaps on the season. We had a few of the potential competitors crash out during that race. Obviously, Duran van Krugden, Matteo Massili, all riders who we can expect to be competitive in the upcoming rounds. But these riders have gained a bit of an advantage over them. Yeah,
they've definitely gained the advantage. And the likes of Lennox that's been able to claim 2 podium finishes, that's a very good start to the season, obviously. And the race win's going to give him a lot of confidence, especially now that we move in towards, well, you'd certainly hope it'd be drier conditions for the rest of the summer months in Northern Europe.
Good to see they're getting driven into Parc Fermé this time. We had a bit of a delay yesterday as they came through the paddock, but they do get the chance to go down victory lane today for race 2. Lennox Pomara, Martin Vince and Rocco Sessler are top 3 from today's race, and it was good to see how happy all the people that were receiving them, the crew from the Northern Talent Cup staff, where all these riders are very much a very closely knit family.
Yeah, you do move around together for the Talent Cups, and you are out there on identical machinery, so it's up to the rider to make the difference if they can. And what we've been able to see this weekend is Lennox certainly able to do that. He was able to take the pole position in the dry on Friday, and now the race victory in the dry on Sunday afternoon.
So our riders entering Park Fairmay. Hopefully we'll get full confirmation of all of our results from this Northern Talent Cup Race 2 in a few moments' time. But excellent job by our first dry race podium trio this year. We can see that embrace from the two riders, two fierce competitors, but also, of course, friends, as we mentioned. They spend a lot of time together here. So obviously they all want to see them all the riders progress to further categories and improve themselves as riders.
Yeah, it never does any harm to see riders from the Cups all making their progress, showing their talents. And that's the good thing with the Talent Cups, is that while you've got the British Talent Cup, the Northern Talent Cup, the European Talent Cup, the Asia Talent Cup, the Latin America Talent Cup, they're all feeding back in talented riders. And if you're good enough to win the Talent Cups and win races, you hope that there's going to be opportunities to be able to show that on a higher stage as well. And certainly for a lot of these riders, the goal has to be to transition to the European Talent Cup over the next few years and then into the Junior GP World Championship.
But we've seen from previous seasons that there are a lot of different paths for these riders when they're in these sort of stages. You get also paths into the World Supersport 300 Championship, as we've seen from Loris Veneman this season. You have paths into the Red Bull Rookies. Some of our previous winners have gone through there. And again, there are a variety of options for these riders where if they can show their pace and they can show their talent in these competitions, they can progress. There's a lot of different ways to the top, especially when you're at this young age.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of ways to the top now, which wasn't always the case. If you think back to the days whenever riders would have to come through their national championships, they'd have to figure a way to find the money. You'd have to find the budget. The Talent Cups do a very good job of making that at a set price to allow you to come through, and that's the real goal of these kind of championships, is to make sure that the cream can rise to the top, because motorcycle racing is a difficult sport to get your break in.
Here are then our final results from Race 2 of the Northern Talent Cup. It is Lennox Pomara with his second win in the class ahead of Sessler and Vince. That battle for fourth was won by Antoine Nativi ahead of Novotny, and Levin Pomara doing a good job after his race win yesterday. Julius Frelson doing well to come back after that run-off at the Gertimmer chicane. He finishes in 7th position. Zelenak in 8th is second of the rookies, with Gunderman also making it into the top 10, as does Keanu Show. Good job from both of them. Decker, Vandenmacher, Ramestoffer, Krabaka and Pontillo complete the top 15 and the point scoring positions, with Killian Holzer, who had a crash earlier in the race, finishing 16th, finishing that race, but not scoring any points. So here's our championship standings. Good news in the Pomara household. It's a 1-2 for the brothers. Lennox Pomara, the elder brother, on 41 points and first position, with Levin just 6 points behind. Rocco Sessa moving up to 3rd position. Good job for him on both days, with Martin Vince also inside the top 5 in both races. Exceptional from Nativi, the rookie, to move into that top 5. Quick look further down the order. Zelenak, of course, not participating in yesterday's race 1. He's moved up into 11th position, with that 8th position finish in today's race 2. Good job from him. Of course, one of our theoretic favourites, Matteo Massili, with a 15th position finisher he had yesterday, his sole point in this opening round. He'll be looking to turn that page for the next round. So we get ready for our podium ceremony here at the TT Circuit Assen, our final podium ceremony after a long weekend of racing action. It's our final race of the day.
In second place,
11 races over the course of the last 48 hours here, last 36 hours really here at Assen, and lots of action for the Dutch fans to be able to cheer on. 2 races in the Northern Talent Cup, closing out both days, and very different races in the NTC. But you'd be excited to look forward to round 2 in the Saxon Ring, supporting the IDM, the German Superbike Championship, in a couple of weeks' time.
That will be from the 12th to the 14th of May, alongside the IDM Championship. So the riders receive their prizes here today. Martin Vince in 3rd, now Rocco Sessa in 2nd. And the elder of the Pomara brothers about to receive his 2nd race winner's trophy in the Northern Talent Cup. Last time round it was at the Oschersleben in 2022. This time it's at the iconic TT Circuit Assen.
Very important to be able to pick up that win in the dry conditions as well.
national anthem.
Here's the national anthem of our race winner, Switzerland, Lennox Pomara.
Oh, and congratulations to...
An emotional moment for Lennox Pomara, takes our race win here in race 2 on Sunday at the TT Circuit Assen.
Yeah, we're very used to seeing and hearing the Swiss anthem in the Superbike paddock after the last few years with Dom Jageter, but how often are we going to hear it for Lennox over the next few years?
On social media.
Feel like that won't be the last time that we hear the Swiss national anthem in this Northern Talent Cup season. The next round will be at the Saxon Ring in 3 weeks' time alongside the IDM Championship from the 12th to the 14th of May. Join us then.